Anxiety is tied up with the body's stress response. And the stress response is a really normal and natural and necessary response to threat. As you can imagine, if we didn't have some way of responding to threat from the environment, we'd all be in pretty serious trouble. So our stress response gears up our body to fight this thing, run away from it, or possibly stand there while we're working out what to do next. So people might have heard of the fight, flight, freeze response. And that alarm system sits in the back of our brain here. Really handy when it comes to, a tiger wanting to take a chunk of us. Now, anxiety is a slightly different kettle of fish, because as the name actually suggests, or if you look up the definition, anxiety is actually fear in the absence of threat. So what happens with anxiety is we have a situation where the brain, this beautiful big part of our brain, which has the capacity to think about the past and anticipate the future, gets hold of a thought like, what if? What if there's a tiger that's about to eat me? And the alarm system, which just does what it does, it reacts like the threat is real. And so we have situations where we are responding as if there was danger when there is none. Diaphragmatic breathing is breathing that involves the diaphragm. So when we get stressed, our breathing speeds up and becomes rapid and shallow, and because the system is revved, because the alarm system is telling us that we're in danger. And so when we actually want to step out of that space and calm the system down, regulate the stress system, then to engage the belly and the diaphragm and breathing allows the system to slow down, and that helps us feel more settled and can actually trick the alarm system into thinking that the brain and body is safer. So safe place guided visualization is a really handy strategy for a worried and stressed brain, because when we get worried and stressed, our brains get busy and it focuses on things that scare it, things that, images, thoughts, and focused on threat and things that we can't control. And so by consciously bringing to mind a safe place, what we're doing is giving the worry brain a safer and more structured path to wander down. And in terms of that path, the more detailed that path, the better. So we're not just thinking about what a place looks like, we're thinking about what it smells like, what it tastes like, who's there with me. So we're wanting to build that image of that place as deeply in the brain as possible, so that gives the brain more hooks to focus on. Now that safe place can be somewhere imaginary, completely created out of nowhere, or it can be a place that you've been, but really the key is to make it as detailed as possible, and it can be a really, really helpful anchor point for a stressed and worried brain. So our imaginations can be really, really powerful things, and in the space of anxiety, that can cause us problems. But that same power can be used for good. So with the use of VR, if we're using our imaginations and we're using experiences that our brain is able to see and practice and rehearse, then in fact this can be just as good as, or can set us up for, being able to do that in the real world. And that's a really powerful thing. Thought reframing is reframing our thoughts. So as the name suggests, it's about trying to work with the thoughts that do pop into our brain. And if you didn't know this before, we've got very little control over what pops into our brain. So it's not about stopping, the thoughts that pop into our brain, but it's about understanding them differently and being able to react to them differently. So that's at the core of thought reframing. So when we get anxious, our brain conjures up a whole lot of thoughts and feelings that don't tend to be too helpful. It gets really busy thinking about what we can't do, what's coming up, how bad it's going to be. There are errors that our brains click into, catastrophizing, mountains out of molehills, being black and white in our thinking. If it's not perfect, then it's horrible. We personalize things and see ourselves as being responsible. So we have a whole lot of lenses that can that help us make sense of experiences or things that we're seeing or thinking or feeling. The problem is those lenses aren't necessarily very helpful and tend to feed the anxiety loop. So thought reframing is first of all about catching those thoughts, because a lot of these thoughts are so familiar to us and have been around for such a long time that they're busily working their influence under the radar, and we don't even know what we're telling ourselves half the time. So a really core part of thought reframing is first of all catching the thoughts. And then it's about becoming a bit of a critical evaluator of those thoughts. So meditation is another way that we can learn how to be with and experience the workings of our mind and body. It's not a new thing, it's been around for many, many centuries, and I think phrases like mindfulness are probably popping up much, much more now in modern psychologies and approaches to mental health and well-being. But in its essence, it's about how do we pay attention to different experiences that we're having, which again is similar to a lot of the things that we've been talking about. I think meditation, it means a lot of different things to different people. So for some, it's a core part of their being, and it's a core part of how they live their life, and they are able to focus on ways to build it into their functioning. And they are the people who may well be able to sit and still their minds for long periods of time. That's not life for a lot of people, and I know certainly for me, those images that might have come in mind of a yogi sitting there and emptying their mind for hours on end probably put me off a little bit. And then I worked out, and through talking and being around other people and other approaches, worked out that meditation can often be adjusted to what works for you. So meditation, or a word that's often used these days as mindfulness, is a way of paying attention to your current experience in a different way and being intentional about that. So we can be mindful or meditative in how we sip a cup of tea or how we have a shower in the mornings. It's about taking a moment and stilling the mind and paying attention to something intentionally. The way we wind down is going to be different for all of us, and I think that's important, just to pay attention to what works for you. The sleep experts or the sleep hygiene experts would have a lot of cues that can help us, and ultimately what they're saying is that if the alarm system is revved up, if their bodies are revved up, that's making it really hard to settle to sleep. So really we have to wind down and let the alarm system know that we're safe enough to go to sleep. Things that help: gentle exercise, going for a walk after dinner, or some gentle exercise, probably about half an hour before bed, means that in fact, some of the stresses that we might be carrying from the day get a chance to be released and relaxed. That can be really handy. Relaxation techniques, when you're lying in bed, of squeezing and then relaxing and moving through the body can be really useful. Also, that good old diaphragmatic breathing can be really handy, because again, we're wanting to send the brain the message that it's safe now to go to sleep. We don't want to eat too much or anything too spicy before bed, because again, if the digestion system is having to work too hard, then that's making it harder for the body to relax. Milky drinks are quite handy, because again, something gets released in those that can help the body relax the system, but there's also teas and things that can help. Baths and showers and those sorts of things that again help the body feel calm and send the brain the message that it's okay to relax is important. In terms of what we're doing in bed, well, obviously people are going to have their own things that they do, but too long watching your device can be problematic. Again, I'm not averse to the odd Netflix series myself, but what I tend to do is switch it off, and then I might read something, or before I start going to sleep. Because if we're too stimulated, then again, remember, the brain is going, hey, are we safe? And that's going to make sleep even harder.